for the last people to join, and then when you are ready to start, it's today your session. You know better than anybody else about the USA.
Well, I hope so.
Die Verrückte. Die Verrückte. Nikki, you are now in Miami, or where are you now?
How are you? Yeah, I'm actually sitting in my office. The whole home office thing for 7 weeks drove me crazy, so I have been coming to the office for the past 3 weeks, like every other day for a few hours.
So Nikki formerly worked for Lufthansa Systems, now Lufthansa Technik in Miami.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Exactly. And since it's just by 12:30 here, I'm joining with a coffee. I don't have a cocktail.
I'm with you. I'm in Memphis. I understand.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Oh my goodness.
Which reminds me, I haven't gotten a drink yet. I'm going to fix that.
Hi Jim, how are you today? Jim cannot hear us. You can hear us, Jim?
Well, he just left. So. Oh no,
I see him. I see him.
Oh, too funny.
Too funny.
Well,
hello, everyone.
Hello.
hello. Hi.
Hi.
Oh, this is fantastic. Okay.
Hello, Mr. Gessner.
All right. Well, look at that. Hi, Christian.
Oh, people are on mute. That's always interesting if they move the mouse and no voice is coming. Huh?
Good afternoon, good evening.
Okay, good.
I love to see if they're just kind of seeing if it works or not, you know? Yeah. Oh,
so
Mark.
Teams got an update. We have now, I see now 5 pictures, and yesterday I even saw 7. So they try to compete with Zoom now.
Why do I only see 4? Where are the other guests?
Maybe you are using it on an iPad?
No, I'm on the iPhone, but I'm actually but
iPhone only 4, I believe. You have to use the desktop app, and then you see by 7, I believe.
Yeah, the thing is, like, if I use the desktop, well, I can try that, but my camera on the desktop is not working because my laptop is not with me here. But I can maybe connect on both.
You can try.
Sure.
I will leave one mute and one. Let me see.
Okay, Carrie. So I suggest you are starting. It's a big pleasure now. It's the 3rd country presentation in the Virtual Happy Hour 3.0 series after Germany and Sweden and France. It's now United States. And it will be very interesting to get to know all these secrets nobody else will disclose us.
Well, I hope I don't disappoint, because those were tough acts to follow for sure. And shoot, anybody at any time, if you want to jump in and ask a question, feel free to do so. I hope it lives up to your standards. It was really hard to contain and figure out how to, really look at everything that's happening. Let me see if this is.
Were you there when Christophe gave his France presentation?
Yes, that was good.
I missed Brazil, did I? Or did you do Brazil already?
No, Brazil will be in June.
Oh,
Gabriela is going to make Brazil soon.
Oh, cool.
How do I get
Daniel, I
and
have
before we get started, Servet, I'm really sorry. I know you probably still haven't been. It's still not the time to break fasting. I hope you don't mind.
No problem. Actually, I'm not fasting.
I have a beer.
No problem. I have something to eat, actually.
Yeah.
I could make lunch too.
Can you see the presentation at all yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you can. Okay, good.
Yep.
Okay, because all I can see is your faces. So now that makes sense. Okay, so yeah, the big US of A. Here we go. So let me introduce myself a little bit first. So I'm Carrie Kennedy. I work for FedEx now, but I've been with a lot of the major airlines and even with the Air Force. I'm originally from Southern California in San Diego, which is just beautiful. So if you ever get the opportunity to come visit, you should. Lots to do, SeaWorld, the zoo, everything. It's just beautiful. I've got 3 younger brothers. One of them is not in that picture. I think we were super excited that Christmas when we got that Atari, and I think we got Asteroids and Space Invaders in that one as well. So that may attribute to the dates of that picture in my age. I love swimming, and I love anything tropical to do with the Caribbean. For my 50th a couple years ago, I did a big splurge and went to the Maldives, and oh my gosh, that was the most stunning vacation ever. Yeah.
It's a long flight.
Oh my God, yeah. It was, yes, 2 days pretty much, but I splurged on Emirates too, which was really nice.
May I ask what you're doing for FedEx now?
So for FedEx now, I work with the flight ops department. I'm into project management. But I started out, I've kind of had this Forrest Gump sort of career where I've gone from the Air Force, which I'll get to in just a second, ended up at TWA as a dispatcher and was there until American took us over. And I'd already worked for American, so I didn't want to go back. No offense to them, but it just wasn't my thing.
You worked for Southwest, so afterwards.
Yes. So I left American TWA and went to Southwest and stumbled into the technology department. And at the time, I didn't even own a computer, so that was really odd. But they needed somebody with a background in meteorology and dispatch to help with the software programming. And so I started off on a whole new career through IT, doing business analyst and project management, and kind of have just stumbled through it, and it's worked out great. But I spent 15 years at Southwest, and it was a fantastic company. It was just time to go and grow in new ways. Bottom left corner there, that's Herb Kelleher. My mom and I were selected to go on a trip to pick up the 500th 737 that we bought from Boeing. And Herb greeted us on this big boathouse cruise, and it was so much fun. He's such a character, and I think my mom is grabbing his butt in this picture, if I remember right.
And Carrie, one question: what was your favorite game with the Atari console?
I think it was Space Invaders.
Yeah.
I honestly don't remember much.
And how about Pac-Man? Pac-Man is also great, isn't it?
Yes.
Atari, wasn't it just like 2 lines and a little square goes left and right?
Pretty much, you remember? Yes, way back in the day. It was just a step past Pong, if you remember that one.
I don't know that one. I just remember Atari.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was so much fun. And the other thing is I was in the Air Force, and for 9 years I was on active duty, and I got to spend a lot of time over in Germany, 2 tours over there, and I loved living in Europe. Beautiful stuff. And then the last 11 years, I was in the reserves and flew in the Hurricane Hunters. And I don't remember which hurricane this is. But it's actually the eye of a storm. And so, yeah, we would fly in, and I was a meteorologist. And so we'd fly in and track the storm and in and out for about 12 hours and then go home. And usually in the summers, we'd end up in St. Croix, which is where this feet picture is from. Spend a lot of time working out of St. Croix, so that didn't suck at all. So that's kind of it. It was fun. So let me shift gears. So the U.S. is, as you know, is we're from everywhere and nowhere, and everybody claims their heritage somewhere else. You know, you've got European Americans, German Americans, African Americans, and it's funny because we're very, very proud of being an American, but we're also proud of being from somewhere else, which is just odd, I'm sure, to a lot of you folks. But you can see everybody comes in all kinds of shapes and sizes and colors, and everything from folks in Alaska and Hawaii to some of our Native American folks that a lot of them live down in the Southwest United States, but we've actually got Native Americans, Indians, that live all over the country. And we range everything from, the streets of New York to the cowboy Texans, and not everybody in Texas is a cowboy, and not everybody in New York is up and coming Wall Street type person. Yeah. And then the U.S.
What is the politically correct term these days of Indians. Is it Native Americans?
Native Americans, yes, correct. Yeah. And technically it includes these Eskimos that live up in Alaska as well. They're technically, Native Americans as well.
So is Eskimo as politically incorrect as it is to say an Indian?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't know.
I don't know if you would call them an Indian.
Yeah. I think they tend to lean more towards Eskimos. That's a great question. I hadn't even asked.
Native American Eskimos. That sounds like a...
Yeah. Exactly.
Native cold American and native not so cold Americans, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah, the warm ones and the cold ones.
We keep it simple in Texas. Just call us Texans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Texans are definitely a country by themselves, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah. There are two folks, two kinds of folks in Texas. Ones that were born here, and then ones like me who got here as fast as we could.
Yes. Where do you live?
I'm in Dallas.
You're in Dallas. Okay. Yeah, I was there for 15 years. Yep, and you're exactly right. It's definitely a mindset. And jump in at any time if I'm missing something, please do. And Hawaiians are interesting because a lot of them, came from a lot of the areas in the South Pacific. And so there's a different culture there. And a lot of times the Hawaiians will call the white people there, what do they call them? I just brain farted. I can't remember the name.
Mainlanders?
No, it's not. It's like Hoolies. I'll have to Google it and remember. I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, there's definitely
them gringos.
Gringos.
Like my Latin American, my Brazilian side calls everything that's white gringos.
I can imagine. Yeah. They do that in New Mexico and the Southwest as well. I'll have to think. I had it, but I don't remember it now. This surprised me when I was kind of putting this together. I was trying to look at how big the states are, and so obviously we've got 50 states. There's 14 territories throughout the world that we also have, and so that includes places like Puerto Rico and the American Virgin Islands down in the Caribbean, and a few smaller islands out there. But it also extends out to Johnston Atoll, Guam, and American Samoa out in the Pacific. And so there's a whole bunch of little small territories, 14 of them, in fact, scattered throughout, mostly in oceanic areas. And a lot of those were used as tactical places during some of the wars, World War II especially. The territories don't have voting rights like the rest of the states do, which makes it interesting, especially for Puerto Rico, because we contribute a lot to the commerce there, but don't necessarily support them. So it's a strange relationship. It's sort of like a stepchild that, you like, but you
don't give them all the rights.
Exactly. So it's strange. There's been talk over the years of bringing Puerto Rico in as a state, but the economy is so bad there. I think people are hesitant to bring it in. It's odd. So we started out with 13 states back in 1776 when we got away from England. And Alaska and Hawaii were the last two states in 1959. And this picture was interesting because I didn't realize how far Alaska spread. So literally you can see kind of the edges of all these. It's got a huge island chain that reaches just about to Russia if you look at it on a real map. But you can see it extends all the way from San Francisco down to Jacksonville, at least width-wise. And it's a huge state taking over most of the states. And Hawaii is very small by comparison. So I didn't realize Alaska was so big until this. And then you can see how the millions have changed in the last 300 years. It feels like we've been around forever, but it was interesting. Earlier last year, I went to a wedding in England with some friends, and then I ventured up into the Cotswold region and just enjoyed walking through a lot of those towns and stuff. And it was fascinating to see stuff from the 900s and 1000 and 1100 AD. And it puts in perspective what old really is. And to see these buildings, Here, if you have a house that's 100 years old, it's considered pretty old. It's crazy. In the Northeast, sometimes there's houses that are 150 years old or 200 years old, but nothing like it is over in Europe, like you guys.
But the continent is a beautiful area.
Oh,
that's gorgeous.
Yeah. Did you do some walking up through there at all?
It's been many, many years ago. I had a friend living there near Cheltenham, and I'd never heard of it, but it's like one of those stereotype sceneries and landscapes that makes you think of some movies being shot there.
Yeah. It was beautiful. I really enjoyed that time there. I definitely would go back. Let's see what else. So the populations in general are interesting. The biggest populations are along the East Coast and the West Coast. Much of the center part of the United States is very sparsely populated, with the mountains going through Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Montana. And so you can see California is generally considered a country by itself with domestic product. Oh my gosh. I hope I don't fall off here. But we've got, what do we say, about almost 40 million people just in California alone, which is bigger than a lot of countries. And the most lightly populated is Wyoming, with only about not even 600,000, half of which we've got almost half as much sheep in Wyoming as we do people, which is crazy. And then Texas is known for its steak and its beef, and so in theory it's got about 11 million beef or cattle there. I just thought those were weird notes. Wow. No, it's crazy. Shifting on, so then I was like, well, how does Europe look compared to the US? And so I found this picture, and I again was surprised to see how big the US is by comparison. And so I remember when I lived in Germany, lived in both Ramstein and Zweibrücken, which were both kind of just outside, closer to Strasbourg. Well, at least Zweibrücken is closer to Strasbourg somewhat. And then, Ramstein is about here. And it was so much fun. There was one time some friends and I decided to take a road trip, and we went to Belgium for breakfast, Luxembourg for lunch, and dinner in Deutschland. And just took a long road trip and enjoyed that.
So what was best, breakfast, lunch, or dinner? Make no mistake.
Dinner. Yes, dinner was the best.
And now the caveat is, sorry, it was an Italian restaurant.
Actually, one of my favorite Italian restaurants was just outside Ramstein. It was, oh my gosh, it was owned by this little Italian couple, and it was so good. And I went back years later, and they were still there, and they were a lot of fun. But spent a total of 5 years over there. I spoke some German while I was there and learned it. I don't remember much of it anymore, Daniel. I'm sorry. I can understand enough to eavesdrop and kind of put some stories together, though.
No problem. We can start to talk more German, and then maybe you refresh your vocabulary. No problem.
Ja, Niki, lass uns mal Deutsch weiterreden. Komm. Sollen die anderen mal, Christian ist auch drauf, sollen die anderen mal ein bisschen einfach ihr Deutsch praktizieren.
Genau, finde ich auch gut.
Sie wollt jetzt Deutsch reden. Okay, dann machen wir das.
Weiter. Mach ruhig weiter, Carrie.
Langsam.
But on the other hand, I think we also have to add partially Russia, the European part of Russia to Europe, and then maybe, and also turning it a bit, I think then you can put Scandinavia in the 13 new countries and so on, and then you push also Sicily to Texas and Spain a little bit up north, so turning it a bit, then it's better fitting in the US.
And by the way, the whole Balkans are missing, including Greece.
Oh, you're right.
And I have a Greek beer here again.
Oh, that sounds so good.
Servet is missing.
Yeah. Well,
Servet, it depends. Are you in Europe? Are you calling from Europe now, or are you calling from Asia?
Yes, I'm living in Europe side.
Okay. So you've ignored Servet.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Hey, look, I stole the picture.
But you know
Eric,
what I
I
find
suggest we start again from scratch. So please start with slide number 1, and then we.
In German.
No, but what I
am leaving Washington DC.
yeah.
My apologies. I hope I don't offend everybody.
No,
But I'm
that's
about
fine.
to offend the French.
I do find it fascinating, Carrie, because we Europeans, maybe I should say us in Germany, or maybe I should say me personally, we sometimes think that Americans, North Americans, US Americans, tend to be ignorant. But I think what we often overlook is the sheer size of the United States, meaning that inevitably the diversity that you have from at least from a landscape and nature and climate zones is just as large or as big as the whole of Europe. So inevitably you are much more inward focused, as we are probably focused on what's going on in Europe, and that sometimes causes, at least for me, the stereotype, oh, Americans, they only think about themselves. But yeah. I mean, it's such a bloody big place with so much diversity.
It is. You're right. And it is great. We do have quite our fair share of ignorant people. So we'll own that one. But you're right. There's actually so many different people. You know, the West Coast is so different from the East Coast, and you know, some are more cosmopolitan, and you get down in the deep South, which is where there's a lot of stereotypes of people down here in the deep South that.
Are you referring to Italy now, or to the US, the deep South Italy? Or?
Yes.
Yeah. So Marco, for your example, so my daughters, so 17 and 13, and they always want to, especially the older one, you know, Dad, let's go on a European trip. And my wife and I have to remind them that we didn't take our first domestic trip until like well into our our high school or college years. And here they've been all over the U.S. already at a young age. And so what I've told them was, I said, look, before we go over to Europe, I said, you know, why don't we go up to New England and tour Boston and all the history of the United States there? You know, why don't we go to you know, Oregon or Washington and experiment up there? So I'm trying to get them to do some of that, explore everything that we have here before we launch international, because you know, that way you don't want to go through life here and not know history. The one thing that's amazing about Europeans is that, what I respect about them is they love their history and they know it really well.
Right.
And the challenge for us is to even though it's only a 230, 40, 50 year history, there's still a lot to explore here. So that's what I'm trying to get my kids to appreciate what we have here before they go overseas. So. Because they'll have plenty of time to do that on their own when they're on their dime. When they're on my dime, let's learn about the U.S. Prepare you so you can have good discussions about. Because when they go over in Europe, you know, the people are going to be asking, well, what's the U.S. like? And so I want their knowledge to be expanded around what they have. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Well, here's an interesting question, and it just occurs to me now: why are we always referring to the history of North America relative to Europe being so much shorter? I mean, like 2,000 years ago, North America was there as well. It was just different people and maybe hardly any settlement, and people just roaming around like nomads. So it seems that history seems to be referring to once people start settling down.
That's actually a good point. Now, do you think it's mainly because there probably wasn't a whole lot of written documentation back then? And again, it was.
I don't know.
You know, what, 500,000 people roughly scattered throughout the whole country. And I don't know if that number includes what was once Alaska and Hawaii, or if that was just for the area that was populated at the time. That's interesting. It's a good question. When I was a kid, like I said, I grew up in San Diego. My stepdad was moved to Rhode Island, which is the smallest state in the country up here in the Northeast. And we went there for a year. So we knew it would only be a year. So we camped our way up the West Coast and went across the United States driving. It took about 2 weeks, and seeing things along the way. And to your point, getting to see the U.S. and then coming home the next year, we went down the East Coast, and there's so much to see. And then came across the bottom through the South, and I think we got to see probably 20, 25 states through that whole time frame, and did a lot of exploring. And I don't envy people coming over to the U.S. to, for a vacation, because where do you even start? I guess it just depends on what you're looking for. To your point, Marco, you could go do tropics, you could do the mountains, you could do the Arctic up in Alaska, or just the whole middle part of the country. I mean, I don't know. It's fascinating. I don't know how you would decide.
You can easily be a year here just traveling the U.S. and you see only different things over and over. Like, you will never repeat something. This is what I think. It's amazing. And then my parents did it the other way around. What Joe just said. They said, while you're under our watch, we do the far away destinations, and when you're older and you don't have your own money, then you can travel Germany.
Yeah.
And now I'm here in Miami for 15 years now, and now I cherish, or actually I enjoy so much to actually traveling around the US and seeing all these things that you just mentioned, from the mountains to Alaska, and it never gets boring.
That's good.
And I think it's important that you know where you actually are. So when you do travel abroad, what Jim just said, that you actually know what you're talking about, from your own country or residence or something.
Right. I'd offer up, if anybody wants to come to visit Memphis, there's a ton to do. And the music is beautiful. It's got a bad rap, but the music is great. The art is great. The food is ridiculous. Come visit.
Ridiculously good or ridiculously bad?
Good.
It's always good. When they say ridiculous, it's always good.
Yes.
and I know there is a person still alive who dated Elvis Presley. Carrie, you know who I'm talking about. Huh?
There's a few. Which one are you speaking of specifically?
I think she is working in your office, isn't it?
Really?
Yeah. I will tell you after the call. Yeah. She has a picture from Elvis in her office.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. She has a German last name. Finkbeiner.
She'll be retired now.
Really?
Yeah, she dated Elvis Presley. Yes.
Oh, I'm gonna have to sniff that out. That's interesting.
Okay, we meet again in the next call, and you let us know if it's true.
Yeah. Finkbeiner. Ooh, I'll have to find that out. That's good. So anyway, I love the U.S. It's a fun place to be from, but I love traveling the world as well. I mean, every country I've been to has been just fascinating in its own little way. So I want to shift gears a little bit and just poke some fun at some friends here. My friends from France. Does anybody know what this is about? The Judgment of Paris. So it happened. Oh gosh, what's the math now? Anyway. So that was back in the day when, French wines were supposed to be the premier wines all around the globe. And so there was a blind taste test done in Paris with a bunch of French wines and California wines. And much to the chagrin of this lady here, I can't remember what her name is. I wrote all this down. Of course, I don't have it. She tasted the wines, they did the blind tasting, and they said, oh, these two wines are superb. And for the first time ever, not only a French or a California Chardonnay, but a California Cabernet both won this blind tasting competition. And that's what ended up putting Napa Valley on the map. Yep, Northern California wines. And again, I highly suggest it someday if you ever get the chance. Wine country is beautiful in Northern California. You can't go wrong. They've been kind of devastated by fires the last few years, but there's quite a few that are starting to come back.
Marco, listen, nothing mentioned about Italian wine. Have you heard? Huh? Nothing mentioned about Italian wine.
Well, that's why the American wine was able to win. Otherwise, if there had been an Italian wine in the competition.
Hey, and my European friends, I think you need to bring some Stag's Leap Cabernet to your next virtual happy hour.
Ooh, yes.
That needs to be your consumption of choice. Try it, you'll like it.
It is pretty good.
See, if shipping was easier and if customs weren't as problematic as they are and duties these days, we would include more international.
Fair enough.
We are talking about the tariffs. Oh.
Fair enough. Put it on your bucket list. Add it to your bucket list then when you visit the U.S.
We will have, and we will document that we are planning a virtual wine tasting.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, it's Virtual Happy Hour 4.0. We are already planning all of this. And we have some of the people here, and we will then invite more. That will be awesome. Yeah.
I might have to cancel all my afternoon meetings.
Yeah, for
Or
you
just
it's
show
gonna
up.
be bad. 11 a.m. No, 11:30 a.m. You're gonna start with the wine tasting.
It's all good,
Oh
right?
Lord.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere. It's fair game.
Exactly.
You can join. Come on, girl. Let's see. What else do I have here? The other fun stuff. I don't know. I'm just gonna kind of keep going. We're big into sports. Love our baseball, our basketball, and American football. I know you folks over in Europe call football soccer football, but you know we're football over here is a little bit different.
Michael Jordan?
Yes, that's Michael Jordan. Yep, that's it. Let's see. The food is huge here. If you come, I know when I lived in Europe, I remember, portions being normal, but they should be normal. Here, it's huge amounts of food, and I know everybody goes home with a doggy bag.
But Carrie, how are you going to eat this hamburger? How do you manage this? How does it fit into the mouth? I cannot imagine this.
You can't do that?
No, it's
just unhinge your jaw.
You just tilt it by 90 degrees and then try that way.
You do it by layers.
Yeah.
A third.
Yeah, it looks like 3 layers there at least. It's insane. And people will eat all of that. That's what's so disgusting. But a lot of it'll go home or get shared. Let's see. Do you guys know the difference between bourbon and whiskey?
Yeah, of course.
Tell us.
Oops.
Yeah, bourbon, I think the pronunciation is already different. I think the Irish use the EY at the end, and you are only the Y. And bourbon is made out of not rye and not what's the other one? But it's tasty good. I like bourbon very much.
Yes, good.
I remember.
I've been in Lynchburg, Tennessee, I told you, but I was also in Scotland and was also doing some tastings there. But bourbon, I have to say, and especially the rye one, I like very much.
Yeah, those are good. So bourbon is technically an American term. It can't be used outside of the U.S., and it has to be at least 51% corn. And it's charred in new oak barrels. And so they'll take the oak barrels, they'll char the inside, store the whiskey and age it, and then send it out from there. And those barrels are generally reused for either wine or rum and sold into other areas. But they can only use it once, which I thought was really interesting too. And if you get a chance, this one right here, Blanton's, oh my gosh, that stuff is delicious. The one with the little horse on top here.
And bourbon, this term, does it have to do something also with the French? Because I think the Bourbon was the French family of the ancient king, if I'm correct. And bourbon sounds a bit similar.
It's vanilla.
It could be. I don't know. Man, you're making me work for this.
I don't think that's nothing to do with each other.
No?
Bourbon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure, Christian.
I will check for you.
We learn a lot here. It's awesome. We don't need Google anymore. We only need the VHH to learn so many things.
That's it.
It originated in Bourbon County.
So it's the county.
Which probably, though, was named after some French settlers.
There you go.
There you go. It was named after, this is German Wikipedia,
Yeah.
It was named after Bourbon County was named after the French royal dynasty Bourbon.
Christian,
in
you owe me now
support
a big
of
pack
the
chocolate.
in appreciation of their support during the independence war against.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you.
That's a nice gift.
Marco.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes.
Good. That's good to know. Well, if you get a chance to do bourbon country, so wine country is in California. Bourbon country is throughout most of Kentucky and Tennessee, most of it, not all of it, but it's a beautiful area as well.
So as a non-whiskey drinker, you said bourbon has to be at least 51% of corn?
Yes, correct.
And what's whiskey, the difference?
I don't think there is a percentage on whiskey because it could be rye or corn or
Okay.
those others. Yeah. We've got all kinds of, you were talking about different accents and colloquialisms and through the area. And so it depends on where you live in the States that what is a Coke anywhere else? It could be a pop, it could be a soda, it could be a soft drink. Even a different type of soda could be called Coke. Like out on the West Coast, everything was a Coke. I want a Coke. What kind of Coke do you want? So that was kind of dumb.
Yeah,
And then
pop is more the northern states, Michigan, Minnesota.
Yeah. And soda tends to be down in the southeast, except for in the Georgia region, which is also Coke, because that's where Coke is made. Yeah. And then you'll hear different versions of you throughout the United States as well. So you is, we were talking about D and no. We were talking about the differences last week, and depending on where you're from, most people would say you or y'all. All y'all is a big group. Yins is something that's used mostly up like in Pennsylvania and Ohio, right? Use
that one.
Yeah, it's a small one. Use is sort of what, New Jersey, New York. Hey, use guys, what are you doing, eh? Yep. And you guys is another collective for y'all, but just a little more westernized.
Yeah, and so Carrie's point about y'all is singular. So if you're talking to Carrie, you say y'all have a good presentation, and if we're talking to the entire VHH group, we say all y'all having fun. So it's singular and plural.
That's true.
Single all and plural all.
Yes, exactly.
So pretty much always. You can say it always.
Yep. You can say any of you. Y'all are awesome. Yep. and then tipping, I know is different here than it is like in Europe too. I know in parts of Europe, I think they just you just pay whatever you do, and I've heard Europeans go, no, why am I paying on top of this, and why is the tax on top of this, and I don't understand. And so
Americans don't think about it. They just tip 20% or around that range, and that's good. And if they tip more, it's fine too.
Yeah.
Germans think too much about it. They start calculating, and then they wonder, because in Germany, giving more than 10% is not habit, but they also earn different. So my Germans here, I always pull their ears. I'm always like, when I'm going out sometimes with them, I always make sure that I watch what they're tipping, because I feel embarrassed if they start negotiating.
Nikki, don't mix your greedy German friends with the Dutch and the Germans here in the call. We are different.
No. Exception to the rule, always.
Yes.
I'm German too. So.
Yes. And so it's odd for me, and I don't, see what you guys think is, so it's odd for me to go over to Europe and just kind of pay what's on the bill plus a little bit left. I feel so guilty, right? And so by only leaving just a little bit of change, I'm like, no, I can't do that. I
think the explanation is that many, especially in Germany, the waiters are paid by the hour.
Yeah,
the tip is always an extra. Whereas I think in the US, they are mostly paid by the tip. And that's, I think, why the perception of tipping is different. On the other hand, I'm also doing the same. I'm always giving 10 to 15%, especially nowadays with the Corona thing. People all wear these face overs and so on, and working hard. But I think there are other countries, especially Southeast Asia, where no tipping at all is the standard. So
you need to make. I think this is
also like that they feel offended.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that you really make sure that you check before you travel what is custom and what's not. Because a funny story, I had an American colleague and he went to Germany, and the difference is here coins, I mean, Carrie might confirm, coins have, or you all know, have no value. I mean, no value to us in the sense of when somebody gives us coins back, that's change. We leave it as a part of the tip. Yeah. And then we add the bills. But in Germany, our coins are very, like, have a big value. We have like a pretty much like a $3 coin. Yes. And we used to even have for a while like a $6 coin, which since we have the euro, they took it away. But nevertheless, I had a colleague, he went to Germany and he went on the train ride and he bought a beer or two, and that cost like, I think, €6. And he gave the €10 bill and said, fine, keep the change. Wow. And then he expensed it here. And then I had to teach him, like, look, in the US, it's fine, but if you pay in Germany €6 for 2 beers or something, and you give €10, that's 50% tip. That is way above what, and you need to also make sure that you don't ruin tip, you know? It's also, it's like this, what Danielle just said, you have this, you want to give more at difficult times, or depending where you go, it's fine, like to make a difference or to make a point. But at the end of the day, if people start tipping totally wrong, then it also ruins, you know, the culture or the average, or for those who cannot afford to give 20% or 50%, and also ruins for the ones that only want to pay 5%.
That makes sense.
My 2 cents.
No pun intended. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right about the change, and it's just kind of just leftovers because it's not much. I mean, a quarter is obviously a quarter of a dollar. It's 25 cents. It's not much. Yeah. And then I know people get confused about the coins. I remember, again, when I was in England, I would just hold out my change. I'm like, tell me what I've got, and you pick out whatever it is that you need. And I've seen people do that here in the States too, with the coins going, I don't understand the coins. Why is the penny, which is only 1 cent, bigger, larger, dime, which is 10? You know, it doesn't make sense. I don't know, but it's fun. So here's one of the most important things you need to know is where to get the good barbecue. It's a big debate. So growing up in California, barbecue was anything that was done on a grill. So and out west, we have a lot of fish and chicken and lots of fresh grilled veggies, and Hawaii is very similar with lots of fish and chicken and fruit. And then you start getting into what real quote unquote barbecue is. So if you say barbecue in Texas or Kansas City or Memphis, what they really mean is something that's smoked and grilled or smoked and put on over flame and, you know, roasted for so long, where what California and Hawaii are is called grilling. It's not barbecue. So there's a definite different term. Texas, obviously, with all those 10 million cows, beef is what's good for you there. You'll see brisket, and I mean, it's delicious. A lot of times they'll use rubs and some sauces. And then you find little nuances wherever you go. So here in Kansas City, most of the rest of the Southeast, pork is the bigger, more prevalent type of meat. But Kansas City has a little bit of a sweeter sauce, and it's got more rubs, so dry rubs. When you get out into North and South Carolina, you'll see more vinegar or mustard-based sauces. I kind of like those. And then here in Memphis, you also have pork, but it's very tangy and oh my gosh, it's probably some of the best barbecue I've ever had. And I know I'm probably going against you with the Texas barbecue, but once you have the Memphis barbecue, you're kind of like, okay, I get it now. It's pretty damn good.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love the Memphis barbecue. So
do you? Okay.
I've been to all of the spots there and really enjoy it. So
yeah,
all barbecue is good barbecue.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to
all the above category.
Well, good.
And then, I might ruin it now for you, or I'm gonna be excluded from the call. But I try to live plant-based for a while now,
Yeah.
So I can only say there's so many delicious way of doing barbecue that does not include meat.
It is tough. Yeah, it is
tough.
not a vegetarian.
And I do have a pet potbelly pig at home.
Yeah.
So this for the past 2.5 years. So that also took away my my chance of eating pork, because I couldn't look at him and think, and I eat your siblings.
Oh, I know. It's so hard.
Do you still like me?
Oh, well, yes. We've got to have one outlier. Do you do fish?
The stepchild.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm flexitarian. I try to live plant-based, but that's like environment and personal health reasons. Because I'm convinced of that diet, but I'm not the person that if I feel today like eating fish that I don't eat it. Like
right.
Then I can have it.
Yeah, the plants always make for a good appetizer, and it reminds me of a joke I heard. A comedian one time who self-reportedly eats a lot, and he was asked to go on a diet of just salads, and he said, salads, I can't just diet on salads. He goes, and he was talking to a room full of accountants, and he says, after all, a salad is just a promissory note that a meal will soon arrive.
True.
That is a good one. What you might want to do is, have you ever had grilled cauliflower, where they take cauliflower and slice it into steaks?
That's fantastic.
I cook and I bake a lot, and I make a lot of dishes that are very meat resembling. Like it resembles completely from ground beef to I don't know, chilies and like the chicken. But I do it like with gluten and lentils, beans. It's all about the spices. If you get a good mix of the spices and the preparation, whatever's hidden under it, you can trick your mind easy.
Yeah, that's good.
And it's healthy.
I wish I could do that. I can't give up bacon.
Savet, you are still okay if you see all this food on a slide, or is it too much for you?
That's okay, no problem.
Okay, good, okay.
But
Ramadan ends on this Saturday, isn't it?
Yes, that's true.
So from next week on, we can even talk about more food. Okay, good to know.
Good. Sorry about that.
We do live cooking next week.
Okay.
Oh, sounds good. Let's see. We'll move on from this to, so we touched lightly on politics last week, and I'll kind of do it here. One thing is that over the last 20 years or so, it feels, and this is just my opinion here, it feels as if our country has gotten more and more divided. It's very Democrat against Republican, and which Republican is towards the right, more conservative, Democrat is more social. And there's a whole mix of blend in between. But what's interesting is that we'll fight each other tooth and nail, but it's sort of like having brothers and sisters where you can fight each other, but if somebody tries to fight you, everybody comes together. And so we are a proud country, and if we get to the Olympics and Women's World Cup soccer and all of these things, everybody will stand behind the U.S. It's just the last few years have been really full of turmoil.
What is the reason that you don't have more parties? Because let's say in Germany, when I was young, we had, let's say, 3-4 parties. Nowadays we have 7, 8. You have in Italy, I don't know how many parties, also in other countries. Was there never ever any discussion to have a environmental party, a communist party, and that you also not only have the choice between two?
I don't know, and help me out here. I think it's generally only been 2 parties. Now there have been other parties in the past that have started, I think, and have kind of changed and evolved over the years. But for the most part, it's only been 2. There've been a couple of factions that have popped up, but none of them have been big enough to really make any momentum. Yeah.
Yeah, and some of them Daniel will have like the environmental topics. That's more of an interest within the two primary parties. Every once in a while, you'll have an independent run for president in our elections every 4 years. They tend to get single digits in the voting tops, low single digits. So it's just kind of the way it's been for almost 245 years, and everybody, the interests get represented just through the two parties.
Yeah.
But is it also a little bit of function of the winner takes all principle? Like in Germany, if you get 5% of the votes, fair enough. You have 5% of the representatives that you send to the parliament.
Right.
So nothing's lost really. You still get your hear and your say. Whereas at least as far as the presidential elections are concerned, it's always a race between the two biggest. Kind of.
Right, and then we have just having the three branches, so there's usually a good chance that if one party holds the presidency, another party will hold the House of Representatives, and then there's the Senate as well. So there's the balance is there within kind of the structure itself.
Right. And so the presidential elections only happen every 4 years, and whoever's in can go only up to 2 terms. Whereas in the Senate and House of Representatives, those turn over every 6 years or so, but they could go for life. So the senators, there's 2 from every state. So regardless of size, there's 2 from every state. And then to balance them out, there's the House of Representatives, which has a percentage of, or a number based on the population of the state. So Wyoming has 1 or 2, Jim? And then California would have quite a few.
Hundreds, yeah.
Hundreds, yeah. So there's different balances there. And they're supposed to be separate and decide a lot of the laws. And so while the president gets the most face time, so to speak, a lot of the senators and representatives are really the ones down in the weeds helping to really drive direction for the country. What else, Jim?
But sorry to ask quick. You said, last 20 years you have the impression we're super divided, which even I noticed being a U.S. citizen, but living here. But I'm like, what about, 30, 40 years ago when there was Reagan and Carter and everything? Yeah. Did it not have such a,
we were probably, Carrie and I were probably too young to notice, right, Carrie? That's the answer.
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
I know you're not. You didn't actively follow politics in the 70s or 80s, but I don't know. I feel like it did get worse.
Yeah.
But it was always one against the other. But now I feel it's for them, it's not even anymore to get stuff going for them. It's more whatever the other party does, we were gonna go against it, no matter if it's good or bad.
Yeah, I think it could be the impact of media and just the transfer of information through the internet is a key because now more people are aware and they get exposed to things outside of their backyard. So before we had our small communities and you really didn't know how strong opinions were across state lines. Here it's just half hour of a news cycle and you hear and see a lot. So I think a lot of it's just the information age and having that become available, because you go back and read history, and I'm reading the series now that the author of Hamilton and Washington and Grant, and there were deeply divided politics back when our country started. So now I think it's just a matter of the information age bringing it to light.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. And then I read somewhere on top of that is back in the 80s at some point, journalism and media, so the TV and newspapers had to report fairly on both sides, and that law was rescinded in the late 80s. And so now you've got people that only watch Fox News because it represents their point of view, and only watch CNN because it represents their point of view. And so it just becomes even more divided than it ever was before. And so I think
you have more than just 2 TV channels, isn't it?
What's that?
You have more than just 2 TV channels.
We do.
But they're all very extreme in one or the other direction. You notice it when they talk about news, or especially right now when we're so close to the next election, and when whatever they broadcast, you notice, or whatever they discuss, we have all these politics shows right now. They are always like very right or left.
Yes.
So that way, if you want to escape from either of those, then you just turn over to ESPN and watch sports.
There you go.
And I can see the arguments are always exchanged via the finger, because both are using the finger in order to emphasize their argument, I believe. Isn't it? On the left top?
Yeah, I hadn't noticed that. You're right. Pointing at each other. Look at that. Yeah.
They're saying you're number one. That's what they're saying. You're number one.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And then I'll just.
Is that also perceived as very, very rude? You wouldn't do that in Germany, finger pointing. That's very rude.
Exactly. We would never do that. We are a very, very polite country.
Nice try. But just because you get fined in Germany when you show somebody any type of finger, and here you can do everything because it's the land of the free.
Free speech.
Freedom of speech.
Exactly.
Freedom of speech. That's right.
These are fun,
It's
Daniel.
like this one guy is lifting his entire arm. You see?
You see, in Germany, you would never see that arm.
Exactly. This guy would be in prison in Germany.
We would be scrutinized in the media if we lift the arm like this.
Yeah, you're right. I hadn't noticed that either, but I think he was waving. Yes.
Yeah, even without any bad intentions, like the young generation.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, that would not be good, typically. Okay, so let's move on. So the last thing I've got is, last week we talked a little bit about the COVID stuff as well. And it's been interesting to see how things have changed. So this map came from just this week as cases are starting to go down in some areas. New York was hit the hardest up here in the Northeast. And they're starting to see it taper off, where a lot of the South and right along the river, the Mississippi River, a lot of these folks are just, we're kind of the last ones to close down and the first ones to open up. And so we're starting to see more cases in some of these areas as well. A lot of the West is kind of difficult to discern because, again, it's very sparsely populated, so there's not a whole lot. The West Coast has been interesting because they went on lockdown very, very quickly, and they haven't seen a huge spike in cases at all throughout the whole thing. All of the states except for Connecticut, which is up here in the Northeast, have opened in some way or another as of today, I believe. Some are going slower to open up. Some are opening up rather quickly. Like here, places like salons, nail salons, tattoo parlors, all those are starting to open up in parts of Tennessee. The cities are slowing a little bit slower to open, but it's interesting to see more and more people out there, more traffic. But people are going out kind of at their own pace. And so, like neighborhoods still are having, you still get together with your neighbors, but you kind of do it from a distance and across the street. I saw this in the news this week where there's a restaurant in the Northeast that's actually putting up blow up dolls in spaces to do a kind of a visual separation and to make the restaurants to feel a little bit more
crowded. That's horrible.
It's a little creepy, actually.
Yeah, but it's kind of it's from the outside. I'm sure it looks good.
Yeah.
I heard you doing the same thing in Germany when now opening Bundesliga, where you can buy your own figure that you can sit on, have on a seat in the arena, just with your picture on it, and then.
Do you get like a GoPro that you can connect to?
That's actually a good idea.
Built into its head.
I don't know. I just saw it on the news yesterday, but maybe someone else knows more about it.
That's funny.
It's quite funny, yeah.
Yeah.
So here in Texas, a little bit more very progressive as far as getting back to work. So some businesses they've allowed restaurants to for a month now, have allowed restaurants to do takeout and curbside delivery. But this past weekend, it was the first time that some friends and I actually went and did a sit down inside a restaurant. And what they had done is just removed, percentage of the table. So you kept the distancing at the tables. And then yesterday, the governor of Texas announced that office buildings could open up. Workers could go back to the offices, kind of capped at 25% of occupancy and, adhere to distancing. And they also opened up daycares because of parents going back to work, and they need to have their kids go to daycare. They've opened those up as well. So you're seeing different pockets of it. And the news I heard, Carrie, just recently was about 80, if this is correct, about 80% of the cases here in the U.S. are in nursing homes.
Yeah.
So really impacting the older population here in the States.
Yeah. I think that'll be the hardest area to recover there. Yeah. Yeah, it's strange. It kind of seems like it's, it'll be interesting to see all the data that comes out of these over the next year or two as people really study this disease and how it moved and did the lockdowns really work or did they not? And, you see all the horror stories coming out of New York, with the overcrowded hospitals and everything. And then you don't hear much from other areas. There's a few areas that pop up that have come up, but I'll be really curious to see what kind of data analysis is done all over the place all over the world for this. What other thoughts do you have and questions? Because this is the last thing. What did I miss?
I have a question.
Yeah.
In Turkey, there is a question arises here. So in every movies or series, you see United States saves the world from intruders or from some enemies. So when will United States save us from coronavirus?
What is that? What?
So when is gonna United States save us from coronavirus? Just in all movies, and your country is saving us
from everything.
Yeah.
Well, Trump is 100% convinced.
Very popular topic in Turkey.
Yeah, we can't confirm nor deny that movie is in production right now.
Oh, the rights are already being sold.
But
sure.
I'm sure it's going to be a perfect movie. The best ever.
Okay.
Who do you think is the hero? Bruce Willis?
Absolutely beautiful movie.
It's anyone's guess.
No, is it not Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Well, he's German. I don't know.
No, he's Austrian.
He's Austrian.
Yeah.
Oh, look at you guys.
Oh, there goes his hands. Look at all those hands that.
I know.
No.
There's that nationalism. That was funny. Oh my goodness, that's funny. I can't think of what else. I don't know. There was so much stuff. It was really hard to condense it down.
You covered a lot of ground. I learned a few things about our country. Thank you.
I think you did a good job. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Gary. It was very
By the way, we have thought to make a virtual happy hour 3.5. I think we discussed this already with Anuja, that we are also presenting the country from somebody from a foreign country living in this country. So, Nikki, I believe you would be a perfect candidate to also present the US because you are from Brazil, because Anuja is going to present in Germany, being from India, and so on and so on. So that's the next thing what we are going to do.
Oh, that's a fun idea, because then you get a different perspective.
Exactly.
So actually, and can it be politically incorrect?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can always use the finger to exchange your argument.
Okay, the point of view from the outside world.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, my heart.
That's cool. Yo, that's a great idea.
So Anuja, you are going to start soon then to present Germany again?
Definitely.
Good.
That would be exciting.
Learn the funny things like you can't just go to your neighbor and ring on their door. No, she's probably going to change the way we actually behave as well.
There are a lot of
because we realize that shit, we've
Germany,
been doing all these things.
Anuja, please do the needful and start to prepare the fight.
Definitely.
All those stereotypes will come out.
And Daniel, you should give me guarantee that you will keep quiet.
Oh, that will be difficult.
You can't do that. You can't do that.
It's called.
No, but most of the comments you are going to get from this Italian who is always telling you about Germany.
Okay, so I should be more scared with Marco, not with you.
Exactly.
So Marco's gonna be put on mute.
You can always mute any participant you want.
Because he's not putting a Juventus Turin or AC Milano background. He is putting a Bayern Munich. So he is a very well German now. I'm
Marco,
very
you
proud of
lost me
Marco.
right there.
Bayern München.
Very good.
You have to have your. I mean, there's certain priorities in life. Nikki,
That's
while
a flaw. That's your flaw.
I have fond memories of our meetings in Brazil.
Oh,
I'd rather
I
lose
just
you than
remember
give
your
up.
whiskey.
No, I'd rather lose you than give up on my football passion.
Oh.
Soccer.
Soccer, exactly. There you go.
Guys, come on, who invented it?
Football is a different passion.
The English.
Yeah, so why then should someone else just copy it and rename it?
Yeah, that's totally true.
It's
But
football.
we're here in the USA session 3.0, so we talk American English. Soccer.
Yeah, but didn't Pele was Brazil, right? And didn't he kind of put football onto the map again? Or was
1970?
Yeah.
We have 5 stars. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying. Yeah, the more stars, the more goals you concede.
Yeah. And I seem to remember like the U.S. women's team kind of coming out on top several times recently in the last few years.
Oh, they are awesome. Yeah,
they are.
They're the best.
They're incredible.
I saw them play actually in Vancouver.
Thank you very much, Carrie. That was really awesome. I learned a lot. And
thanks for that, Carrie.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
On Friday, we are going to have Korea. On Monday, we are going to have South Africa. And I think you see the list of countries which have been scheduled already. If you know somebody from a country which is not yet on the list and you want to have her or him presenting his country, please let us know. We are always open to widen the horizon of our community.
That's very fun. I love the new logo. Thank you all. And thanks for your backup, Jim. I appreciate it.
Happy to help. Awesome job, Carrie. Well done.
Thank you.
Really good.
All y'all have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you guys. Thanks for the invitation.
Bye-bye.
All righty. Bye-bye.